We have special guest Seth Greenberg of ESPN. We'll delve into how he started as a coach, and when he got to become a head coach, what were some of the challenges he overcame. We'll also talk about the upcoming NBA draft and how he analyzes players, and we talk about possible fits for lottery teams coming up in the NBA draft. We hope you enjoy the interview. Thanks for listening to One Man in the Draft.
And I tell all these coaches, it's real simple. If you don't coach your players and help them get better, first of all, they're not going to respect you. If they don't allow you to coach them, they're not helping you win anyway. If you're afraid to coach them because, they might transfer, they're not helping you win anyway. So why don't you just do what you can do? Help them become better players. Help them give them a better understanding of how and why and what you're doing.
Welcome to the Sports Business Classroom audio experience. For the next few months, our show will be hosted by a rotating panel of industry leaders in their respective realms. Each host will bring on guests who they regard as experts in their field, so you can learn from the very best about the intricacies of the business of basketball. This episode is brought to you by the Sports Business Classroom Business of Basketball Immersive Experience in Las Vegas. Taking place July 10th through the 15th during the Las Vegas Summer League, the Business of Basketball program is an immersive training and educational experience for the basketball leaders of the future. If you dream of working in basketball and want to take your basketball experience, knowledge, and network to the next level, this program was designed for you. Majors include the league salary cap, scouting, video and analytics, and media and broadcast. This is an amazing opportunity to invest in your future and a chance for you to prove that you have what it takes to work in the business of basketball. Listeners can find out more at sportsbusinessclassroom.com. That's sportsbusinessclassroom.com. And please note that space is limited and that this program will sell out. So if you're interested in taking your basketball career to the next level, head on over to sportsbusinessclassroom.com today.
Welcome back to One Man in the Draft. I am your host, Dan Purcell, and we have an extremely special guest, Coach Seth Greenberg of ESPN. Coach, thanks for coming on.
My pleasure, Dan. Excited to do it. It's a lot of fun anytime you can talk ball and kind of try to look to the future and learn a little bit and listen and hear. Life is good.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a lot of, one of the things that we really enjoy about, when I've spoken with you now, is your passion. You have a lot of passion for basketball, whether that's just talking about players, talking about teams, talking about things that you do. There's a lot of passion that comes across. When did you learn, a little backstory here, when did you learn that basketball was your path, that this was what you wanted to do, for all the young people that are listening?
I don't remember a time I didn't want it to be my path. I was really fortunate. My dad played for the legendary Claire B at LIU way back in the day. And Coach B used to come and visit all his former players in the summer. At one time, late in his career, he ran a camp at Kutsher's Academy, and he would go and recruit campers for the academy. And he'd travel throughout the northeastern seaboard, and he'd stay actually at his former players' homes. So Coach B would actually come visit our house. One of the great coaches and teachers in the history of the game. And, I just remember sitting and listening to him talk to his stories, and then being moved, even at, 8, 9, 10 years old, about here is a guy that, years and years past, my dad played for him, and yet he still had a relationship. And then as I grew older, I attended the 5-star basketball camp. And I remember listening to a lecture by U.B. Brown, and absolutely just mesmerized. Manner in which he impacted me. And that camp impacted me. That camp built bridges for so many of us to cross to pursue a career in coaching. And I remember leaving that camp. It was the end of my sophomore year of high school. Actually, my freshman year of high school, and saying, this is what I want to do. And I attended camp for 3 years, and then I became a counselor, and then I became a head coach and a clinician, and kind of grew with that part of the 5-star family, which at that point was maybe the greatest springboard of any vehicle to pursue a career in coaching. If you think about John Calipari and U.B. Brown, and all the great coaches, Ronnie Rothstein, Mike Fratello, college coaches, NBA coaches. I mean, Brendan Malone was a ball boy. His dad obviously I started as he was a high school coach, Brendan, and I said Michael Malone was a ball boy, and his dad was an assistant coach at Syracuse, head coach at Rhode Island. Obviously, then got to the NBA with the Ronnie Rothsteins and Coach Brown and Coach Fratello and Richie Adubato, and so it was a great environment to learn and just sit in the background as people went to dinner. There was a place called the Fireside in Honesdale, Pennsylvania, and you would sit in the background and just listen to these guys talk ball. And it's something that I fell in love with, and I was very fortunate to be exposed to it, and I'm very fortunate to have the career that I've had.
Yeah, it's there's something, and maybe I'm a little biased because I'm actually from Ohio. So this Midwest, this whole Great Lakes, there seems to be a lot of camaraderie in that area. I don't know if it's the same everywhere else, obviously, because I'm not everywhere. But did you feel like in that general area that there was just a lot of support for people saying, hey, you're local here, you're local, guy, you want to come up, here's some connections we can make, or, maybe you ask for somebody? Because I think one of the biggest barriers for young people is the ask, right? Is the, can I help? How can I help? Did you ever have that fear? And then if you didn't, how did you just approach that? How did you just approach saying, hey, I want to help. I want to grow. I want to, be a part of this. Is that just simple conversation, or was there anything you had?
Well, that's what 5-star was for all of us. It was just connections. So life is about relationships. And you had an opportunity to build relationships through the camp, through the other people that were working, through the people that came through camp, to watch the best players in the country would all end up at 5-star, whether it was Patrick Ewing, whether it was, Moses Malone, whether it was Michael Corum, whether it was, you name it, Mark Aguirre, Isaiah Thomas. Back in the day, there wasn't grassroots basketball per se as we know it. It was BC camp and 5-star camp. Mm-hmm. And then as you immersed yourself into it, you developed relationships, and those relationships obviously opened up doors. And I do agree with you in one point, though, Dan, and this is really important to me, is every young person out there needs a mentor. Every young person needs someone that's going to invest in their career. I was very fortunate not only to have 5-star and Howie Garfinkel and Will Klein and the people there, and then all the people I met along the way there, the Dave Odoms and people like that, but also like my greatest mentor probably was Coach Holland when I was at Virginia, who basically rescued my career. And I never made a major decision without asking him, whether it was changing jobs or even ask my wife to marry me. And you have to have someone that is invested in you, that has literally genuinely cares about you, your career, the direction you're going, wants to build a bridge for you to cross, wants to give you advice when you need advice. Obviously your parents can't do that in this profession, but who can do that is if you have someone that, basically, invests in your career. And I try to do that now with young coaches. But 5-star was an amazing experience, because if you look at the number of coaches that came through that camp that went on to have incredible coaching careers, or you think about the people that worked that camp, the best high school coaches in the country, when you think about the people that came to lecture at that camp and teach, and that was a big thing. And then, my other mentor, obviously, I played at a smaller school, Division I school called Fairleigh Dickinson, better known as Harvard on the Hackensack. My coach was a guy named Alabama, who was a nice assistant at Army and was one of the originators of ball man defense. He was Coach Carter's second assistant after he got let go at FDU. He was not a good coach. He was a great coach, a great teacher. And the reason I went to Fairleigh wasn't the great communications department, even though I majored in communication. It was to play for him to learn, because he was a great teacher of defense, and I thought that would set me apart. So you got to have a plan. You got to have a vision. It's no different than when the first time you sit down with your team. You got to have a vision of who you are, how you're going to win, and then obviously work each and every day to make that vision become a reality, whether it's individually with players or collectively with players. So, I mean, I was very, very fortunate to be around some really good people. My brother and I, Brad, who's coached in the NBA, was a general manager of the Sixers, who drafted Allen Iverson, who helped build the great Portland Trailblazers teams, who's now been one of the most successful coaches in Europe. Now he's coaching in Puerto Rico. We'd get in a car at the beginning of the summer, and every single week we'd go to a different camp and meet people. It was different back then. Now it's more, obviously AU driven, but you still have to take the initiative to meet people, develop relationships, earn respect, and then find a mentor to help you navigate your career.
Yeah, that's so important. That's a great point. Mentors, and it's not just basketball. I think it's any career that you really want to get into. You got to have to be able to bounce ideas off people or say, I'm struggling here. And I think also mentors, you have to be vulnerable enough with them and say, I'm struggling, or I don't know what's going on. I think there's something to be said to that. I think a lot of, in my experience anyways, young people sometimes have the problem of being vulnerable because they either see it as weak or they see it as, somebody's going to, betray them or whatnot.
They don't know what they don't know. That's the problem. You have too many people who don't know what they don't know. And, a wise person once told me that's, not knowing what you don't know is a sign of intelligence, not a sign of stupidity.
That's a great point.
And the question you want to ask, most people in that room, in your classroom, want to ask the same question. So raise your stinking hand and try to get the answer to the question.
That's right.
And don't be afraid to be vulnerable. Don't be afraid to be wrong. Don't be afraid to be different. Don't be afraid to ask a question. The only way you're going to find the answer is to ask the question. So it's no different than when you're coaching a team. Like you coach, don't be afraid to, every once in a while take some risks and have agility to change. If something's not working, you got to look in the mirror. Obviously you can't change on every single time something doesn't work, but the season's long and things happen and players develop, and in the middle of games, you got to have the agility to see, react, and change. That's what the very best coaches do. Yeah,
that's a great point. So let's move on now to the actual process of you. Now, let's just fast forward to when you were a head coach, right? Your first head coaching gig. You're able to put your own, stamp on how you play, how the guys are treated, how the system is run, how the program's run. What were some of the first difficulties or challenges that you came across that still stick with you today?
Well, I had a couple things. Rudy LaRusso once said, I was coaching in South Florida, but not my first job, but I think it's good advice. You can't be more intense in your team. You can't be more intense in team. So I think that's one thing in a big picture. You can't burn at both camp. You've got to be the best version of yourself. So like when things go south, everyone wants to work harder, spend more time, watch more film, grind it out. By the time you get to practice, you're not the best version of yourself. You're not as good a communicator. You're not as good a listener. You're not as patient. You're not as good a teacher. In my first year at Long Beach State, I was a very good coach, but I was not a very good person to play for, because I wanted it so bad that, and I overworked to the point where it made it difficult for my team to enjoy the process. And I learned that in 1 year. It was obviously a great lesson. And then I, basically tried to improve in that area each and every year. And it wasn't like I wasn't intense. It wasn't like I didn't coach my team hard. It wasn't like I wasn't demanding. It wasn't like I didn't have core beliefs and non-negotiables. I didn't have certain things that, basically we stood for. And then when I got to Virginia Tech, I guess my third year at Tech, we had a really good team. Jamon Gordon, who was one of the best players in Europe. We had Zabin Dowdell, played in the NBA for a while. Coleman Collins played overseas. But my daughter was a senior in high school that year. And I guess it was our third year in the ACC, I should say, our fourth year in the ACC. And so she would go on road trips with me. And so we would do our film. We do our walkthrough in the gym, and then we'd have dinner, and then I'd send the guys back. Then we'd bring them back for our last film session and take down a court and have an ice cream bar and kind of go from there. And then I'd usually go back up to the room and I'd open up my laptop and I'd start grinding. And I remember the first time I'm in the room, first time I did it, I flip open the laptop. She comes walking into the room. She closes it. I said, "What are you doing?" She goes, "Dad, if they don't know it by now, they'll never know it. You know everything humanly possible about this team. There's nothing more that they can process between now and tomorrow. All right. Most important thing is you need to just relax." And we watched the movie. And
that's awesome.
Every single road trip after that, once we had that last meeting, and I put together all my notes for the game and, all the potential roadblocks and detours that could happen. Once I got back up to the room, we'd watch a movie, eat ice cream, and watch a movie.
That's awesome.
And it was great. I was as relaxed coaching that year as probably I've ever been.
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's crazy what family can do, right? It's amazing what they can see in you that maybe you can't see because you're obviously occupied with trying to make a team work, make players work together. And that's a load, and then you have to win on top of it. So what's that?
In the ACC, that game was at Georgia Tech when they had all those pros. We actually won the game, which obviously helped a little bit. But it became a good routine. And like I said, our practices were hard. I think that's one of the problems that young coaches have today. They're all afraid to coach their team because of the portal and everything that's going on. And I tell all these coaches, it's real simple. If you don't coach your players and help them get better, first of all, they're not going to respect you. If they don't allow you to coach them, they're not helping you win anyway. If you're afraid to coach them because they might transfer, they're not helping you win anyway. So why don't you just do what you can do? Help them become better players. Help them give them a better understanding of how and why and what you're doing. So they all think they're going to be pros anyway. But more importantly, if you don't, the result is going to be devastating because your job is to push them, challenge them, help them get somewhere they can't get themselves. And by being afraid to coach them, you're cheating them, you're cheating your program, and you're not going to be as successful.
Yeah, I think that falls in the category also of, you kind of have to be yourself when you coach, right? You have to be you. Players are super smart. That's one of the first pieces of advice I remember I ever got when I was coaching back when I just got out of college. I just got done playing. A guy who I'm still super close with, he said, I asked him, what's one piece of advice here? And we were going into AAU, obviously, and one piece of advice, he said, be yourself. You have to be yourself. If you're a yeller, yell. If you're a quiet guy, be quiet. Whatever that is, players will figure you out. They're smart.
Find a system that fits your personnel. Coaching's putting guys in position to play to their strengths.
Absolutely. 100%.
Coaching's figuring out a system that fits you offensively and defensively. And so, I always say, coaching's not like fashion. And back in the day, Judd Heathcote's playing 2-3 matchup. Well, look at the size of his guards. Or Rick Pitino's pressing. Well, you know what? And shooting threes. Well, he had guys who could make threes. You've got to figure out a system that's going to, if you're a high school coach, figure out a system that's going to fit your community. If you're a college coach, it's going to be figure out a system that you can recruit to, that gives you a chance to do this. Beat the best two teams in your league. Because you can beat the best two teams in your league, you can beat everything else. Everything I did at Virginia Tech, I did to beat Duke and Carolina.
Right.
I knew if it was good enough to beat Duke and Carolina, then I'd have success against Maryland. I'd have success against Virginia. I'd have success against NC State. And, we went on a 5-year run where we were the third winningest program in the ACC. When we got to the league, people thought we were going to destroy the league. Then we started winning games, and people were losing their minds. Oh, the league's down. No, the league wasn't down. We just had good players, and we played hard.
I think Tech still has that stigma because I believe they won the ACC this year, and nobody was. Yeah, a great job. But still, it's they're still up in arms that it's not Duke Carolina. So let's move forward now. Let's move to player evaluations and how you see players, right? So the draft is coming up, obviously in a few months. My favorite time of the year. I live for the draft. I think it's one of the greatest events in the sports and obviously in the NBA. When looking at players, what are the three? If there are three things that you always sit on, that you always go to with players that translate to the next level, what are they?
Well, first and foremost, are they winning players? Are they fiercely competitive? Are they guys that like winning is the most important thing. I mean, it sounds silly. The second thing is, do they understand their role and can they buy into a role? Because especially at the NBA, if I'm evaluating up, or even about, at Virginia Tech, I had a kid named Terrell Bell, played for the Atlanta Celtics. He was a perfect fit for me because I needed a blend guy to go along with my backcourt of Malcolm Delaney and Eric Green, the guy that did all the dirty work. Well, can a guy embrace a role? I had Dorian Finney-Smith. Obviously, he's done a great job finding a role. Will be a guy that will embrace and champion a role. Will he buy into what he does well? Is he more concerned with what he does well or showing people what he can't do? So, like, what is he good at? Like, what defines him? Who is he and how he wins? And does he understand what his strengths are? And obviously, you got to be talented, and then obviously, if he's allows himself to be coached, if he can buy into a role. And then if he's fiercely competitive, obviously you got to be skilled and athletic and all. I mean, look at all those things. And then again, this was for me in terms of in college, I would be a little bit different. To me, positional size was because I played with 2 point guards, 2 wings, and a front court player. Mm-hmm. I needed to have 2 ball guards that could make plays and were unselfish and score it. I need my wings to be able to defend multiple positions because we switched 1 through 4. And I need my post guy to be able to rebound the ball, rim run, and roll to the basket hard and be a son of a bitch as a screener. Mm-hmm. So that's how I define. But in a big picture, look, you got to have guys that are going to buy in and be winning players. Are going to basically the most important thing is to win. If the best player, maybe one of the best players in the NBA, can allow himself to come off the bench because it can help his team in this moment in time until he gets his sea legs back, which I see obviously they're back.
They look pretty good.
Pretty good. The NBA is the most exclusive club in the world, Dan. You know it and I know it.
Yeah.
It's the most exclusive club in the world. All right. So what you've got to do is you've got to find your niche. That's what you've got to do. You've got to find your niche, right? What do you do well? Because it's a league of role players. So if I was a college guy, scouting college guys, does that guy understand who he is and how he wins? What exactly is his role? And then is he fiercely, fiercely competitive? Is he about winning? Because winning guys make a difference.
Yeah, I actually agree fully. That was one of my things as I look at the draft is how does he impact winning, right? What's his winning skill? What is his winning, and it doesn't always have to be raw talent. It can be he lifts other players up. Other players are down and he's able to lift their spirit. You know what I mean? Magic Johnson had that. I was just watching the Showtime thing, just to catch up on it a little bit. But Magic, I remember Magic had that. You know what I mean? He would lift people up, and not just from the show. In real life, he would try to lift people up, and that's a special trait.
Look at Mikal Bridges right now. Perfect.
Oh, absolutely.
Look at Mikal Bridges. He's a perfect example of that. In real life. Look at Draymond Green. He's perfectly content at playing that role. Talk about lifting people up. But look at teams that are winning and that are expected to win in the NBA. You know what I mean? And then look at the teams that you can't count on.
Yeah.
You don't know what you're getting every night. Like I used the example, and I was going to use it today and Get Up. Look at Al Horford.
Yeah.
Isn't it amazing when now he's back with the Celtics and he has a fit and he knows exactly what he needs to do? He had 20 and 15 the other day. It's funny because Brown said, well, they don't have rim protection. No, but they got a guy who can get out on ball screens and recover back. They have a guy who can stretch the defense to open up the floor for Tatum to slash and make plays and Brown to slash and make plays. And, I think that there's a perfect example. You got to have guys that are going to do those things and embrace it and champion it. Mm-hmm. I think those are some things that we lose. We don't watch enough. We lose in evaluations. Too many guys lose in evaluation. You're trying to put together a team. And a team is only as good as the respect each other has for what the other guy does well. That adds to winning. So I think, you can't get just seduced by talent. Every time I got seduced by talent and potential, a mistake.
Yeah, that happens at the pro level too. You fall in love with talent. Sometimes people say, "Oh, this is just a guy you have to have because he's so talented," but he sticks out like a sore thumb because maybe he's a bad guy, or not a bad guy. I don't want to say bad guy, but he doesn't fit personality wise, just off the floor during practice. You know what I mean? Things like that. It's interesting that you said that, because I think that's overlooked a lot. People are like, we gotta have talent to win. Yeah, you do have to have talent to win. You do, absolutely, but you don't have to sacrifice something, 2-3 things just for one thing. You know what I'm saying? So
you have shot makers, because the way the NBA is a league today that I call them floor gamers. The more floor gamers you have on the floor, the more pressure you can put on the defense, especially with the way the game is officiated. Although in the playoffs it's not officiated that way, but you need floor gamers, and you need, like people talk about it, positionless. Everyone wants to play positionless basketball, except 3/4 of the college teams want to play positionless basketball, but they don't have positionless players. They're telling guys, why is 3-point shooting down? Because the wrong guys are shooting 3-point shots.
Mm-hmm.
So I think in the NBA, when you're evaluating, is he a floor gamer? I think is important. Is he a winning player? Is he competitive? Who does he guard? Is he versatile enough to, switch 1 through 4? Is he tough enough to get through and over top of his? There are just so many things. The intangibles are as important as the tangibles.
Yeah, that's so true. So true. So taking what that, what it looks like for you, who are some guys that you see in the first, we'll call it the lottery, right? Guys that maybe 1 or 2 guys that have that, what you've described and what you're looking for, maybe 1 or 2 guys that you think has that type of mentality and that type of drive, that can impact another team, or a team that obviously a lottery pick, you want to impact in the first 2 years. That's where really what you want. Unless he's the first pick, then you want, obviously immediate gains. But 1 to 2 guys that you think fit what you're talking about.
Like Johnny Davis to me is DeMar DeRozan waiting to happen. 6'7", middle game, physically strong. You can actually throw him in a post up. You can defend multiple positions. Pretty good off the bounce. Not a world-class ball screen player. Not spoiled by the process. Mm-hmm. Elite defender. I think he's a guy that's high character, that can win. I think Ochai Agbaji is one of those guys that he has a skill set. He's not Ray Allen, but he's a poor man's Ray Allen. Now, look, he's not going to – he can really defend, can rebound his position a little bit, but he could flat out stretch the defense. And he's really, really good, high basketball IQ in terms of coming off screens and make plays. I'll give you a younger player that I think is going to be really special in that way, and that's Jeremy Sohan from Baylor. Is he Draymond Green? He's not great Draymond Green, but he's got some of those skill sets, multi-positional defender, really good floor game, can stretch it a little bit, rebounds his position. I've watched him practice multiple times. We did a game there. I went out and watched him for 2 days. Incredibly coachable, 19 years old, not full of himself, going to get better. Won't back down to anyone. He's kind of an interesting one because he's got a little Anunoby in him, and he's got a little Draymond Green in him. He's not, I haven't figured exactly where, but I mean, look, they're a high character. I mean, the one thing about these young players today, they've been exposed to so many things that I think it's high character. The negative, a lot of the young players today is they think it's easy. And, it's whether they're going from high school to college. I say all the time, I tell kids when I meet with them, I said, like, that shit looks easy. Let me tell you something. It's not easy. Okay? It's not easy. And it looks easy on TV. It's not easy. And going to the next level, all right, coaching is great. Preparation is great. Everyone can play. Guys that you don't think can play. It's it's obviously an international game where, quite honestly, overseas, the foundation is different. It's greater emphasis, obviously, on shooting, passing, skill work. But those are some guys just, off the top of my head, that I think I like the older guys that are a little older. I think they immerse themselves easier. Not that like Jabari Smith, I think, is a monster.
I agree.
I've been down there a bunch, and it's not Kevin Durant, but he's a guy that shoots it easy, very good passer, a little bouncier, I think, than Banchero. He obviously had the terrible NCAA tournament game, but he played with really bad guards. Like, you got it. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
Evaluating for the next level. Like, who's he playing with? Like, can he play with other? Why do the Kentucky guys all do well at the next level? I'll tell you why. They're used to playing with good players.
Yes.
They're also used to being under that spotlight. They're also used to being coached and being told, no, that's not good enough. And so when they get to the league, you know what? They understand being coached every day. They understand the demands. They understand the pressures. They understand to be part of a team. But it's amazing. Some people look at it and say, oh, Cal holds those guys back. No, he actually teaches them so that when they do translate to the next level, they understand how to play with other good players. The game's different. There's more possessions. There's more freedom. It's more open, all those things. But there's no, it's not because it happens for a reason. Let's put it that way. And I've seen it firsthand. There's a lot of peer pressure in that program to live in the gym.
I think that's one of the biggest things at the next level, right? Is that transition period of, I'm going from a college player to a pro player, and it's in the gym. You live in the gym. That's your job. You're getting paid to do it. And again, I guess you could argue guys get paid now in college and whatnot, but you still have to go to class, right?
They are now.
Yeah. So let's finish up here on the actual draft itself. If we just go by order of, we'll pull the draft order as of now by record. Which team do you see is positioned really well to find a player of need? For example, you have, I tweeted out and had a conversation with a lot of people about New Orleans at 8. They could be sitting there, anytime you have Zion Williamson, you want to surround him with shooting and playmaking, right? You just want to get as much as you can around him, let him, make defenders stay off.
Is he still playing the team?
He does. He's still a part of what they do. So until he's not, you have to build around him as a number one pick. And I tweeted out the other day that, New Orleans might be sitting here at 8. And they may be able to pick between AJ Griffin, O'Shea Agbaji, or even Ben Mathurin. All those guys could be sitting there at 8, and that's a really good position to be in when you already have the guy you're invested in. You also have Brandon Ingram, and then you also have CJ McCollum.
I like Ingram better than Ben Simmons coming up.
Oh, absolutely. 100%.
And the reason being is because Brandon Ingram, he plays. Yeah. The other guy, if you look, he quit on his college team. It's
crazy you said that. I remember going to LSU games, right? I mean, I was in New Orleans, so I was, an hour away.
Right at the end of the season, right? He quit on his team. And
one of the most frustrating players I've ever scouted in my life, because you see him. Oh, talented, oozing with talent. Wasn't mentally there, didn't want to be involved, wasn't listening, would sit at the end of the bench when there's timeouts or halftime. He would be the last guy out. Like, those little things, they count. They count at the next level, because like you said earlier, players, there's a peer pressure, but there's also a respect level that you have to earn with other players, right? If a guy's been in the league for 8 years and he just grinds, and, and he's been doing his job and he's finally got his first contract, people respect that because he's put the time in and the work, right? And he's engaged and he's involved. But then at the same time, you have sometimes rookies that come and they're not engaged. They just continue what they did in college. And it's an automatic turnoff as a player, an evaluator, automatic turnoff for me. I don't need, I'm just thinking our team doesn't need someone with a bad attitude and a bad, not engaged coming into our group. You know what I mean? And that hurts a lot of people, and people lose money over that. That's the big thing too. These guys drop 2, 3, 4, 5 slots. They've now lost $20 million, Yeah. I mean, it's full, and he's got so much talent. Obviously people bypassed it. And the big thing with him is that like he put it on Doc, because Doc tried to coach him.
and told him what he didn't want to hear. But I mean, you can't. I mean, if you're going to pay a guy that much money, you got to try to coach him, and you got to try to hold him accountable and like shoot a layup, man. Like shoot a layup.
Just dunk it. Just go up with some force. You literally are the biggest, strongest guy out there. Just do it
I
with some
watch
force.
all these videos of him now, and look, he can defend. There's no doubt about it. He can
100%.
initiate your break off a defensive rebound. He's a very good open court passer. But I watch him still shoot these shots. First of all, the summer before I got such a kick, watch him shooting set shot threes. Yeah. That's great.
With the wrong hand.
But it's comical. But anyway, if I had those three guys, that's a really hard pick. Obviously AJ Griffin, 7-foot wingspan.
Yeah.
Terrific catch and shoot, so it can open up the floor. End of the season started to put it on the ground a little bit better. Not a great defender, but has the length to be a pretty good defender. Ochai is a much better defender. Maybe not as good an upside in terms of sheer size, but I mean, Ochai's athleticism. I mean, all those lobs they throw him off those specials on the side and out of timeouts is ridiculous. Ben Mathurin might be the best complete of both. Really good straight line driver, very good passer, actually underrated passer, and could make a shot. I almost think that his upside might be the safest in terms of, because you can take the ball out of Ochai's hands. Now look, he's going to space the court, and if you close on him, he can definitely shot fake and play. He's better off the ball. He waits on screens. He's very, very patient coming off screens. I would put Griffin third in that group, just because I don't think Griffin has the upside to break you down, and I'm not sure he's a very good passer to make plays if people do close on him hard. So that's Mathurin, Ochai, and AJ Griffin, which is the opposite of all, obviously, draft gurus.
So, talking about AJ Griffin, something that I actually had a question on that I maybe you have the answer for. Is it me or does he? It's a little bit of shrinking in big moments. I felt like during the tournament, I didn't feel like there was force behind his game, and I don't know if it was he was trying to let Paolo be Paolo, or maybe it was somebody else that he was trying to defer to. Is he a guy? Do you think
he's made big shots for him?
Yeah. Do you think on the NBA level that he's going to be able to hold his role?
Well, I don't know if that's who he is. I had the same problem with Paolo, to be honest with you. I mean, it drove me crazy. And even Zion, like the end of games, I just can't understand. Like, you should know where you want to get that guy the ball.
Yeah.
Paolo Baker, what do you want? You want a mid-post left side? You want a left elbow? You want a right elbow so you can drive to your left hand for a pull-up? You want a left elbow so you can drive to your strong hand to try to get to the rim? That was one of my concerns about Duke this season is at the end of games, like you got Paolo Banchero, was the first, second, or third pick in the draft, who's a great passer, by the way.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, you got to know where you want to get him the ball. AJ's got limitations. I mean, he's a spacer. He's a three-point shooter. He's he's got a big physical long body. But he put the ball on the floor a little bit more towards the end of the season. Played for a very, very good high school coach. Missed some early season, but early in the season he made some big shots for him. I just don't think they knew who they were going to at the end of games, Duke.
Yeah, I agree.
Always ended up in Trevor Keels' hands. It's a great problem to have. They had a lot of dudes that they could play through. I mean, like Wendell Moore made a big shot in that game. Keels made 2 big threes in that game that they lost. But no, I agree. I agree that there's a little bit of if to his game. Obviously got good pedigree and a great kid. AJ's a great kid.
Yeah, that's what I hear. I hear he's a really, really good kid.
Mathurin, we did a game out there. I loved him in practice. I loved his energy. I loved his shot making. That team, he changes ends like an NBA player. And Ochai's just a bucket getter. Like think about the shots he made against Texas Tech off the flare rescreen where, everyone knows he's coming back off of that thing. Instead of playing above it and forcing a back cut, defender for 1 second turns his head. Once he sees him turn his head, boom. he's coming off of that rescreen and knocking down a jumper. So I would probably do my gut feeling is I would do Mathurin, Ochai, and Griffin. And that
Interesting.
And I'd have to watch him. I'd have to watch him a little bit more in synergy.
Yeah, for sure. And then last question for you, Coach. I don't want to take too much of your time, and we appreciate you coming on. Last one. Who has the most upside in this draft that you think? And it could be first round or just somebody that you think
I think
has really good upside.
I think it's Jabari. I just think Jabari is he's so young, yet he's so skilled. Another guy who can really pass it, who understands, think about it. He's a 40% three-point shooter and shoots it effortlessly. He can put it on the floor, a little up and down, but put it on the floor. He can play in the mid-post off a post-up. He can defend multiple positions. I'd say Jabari. Early in the season, I would have said Jaden Ivey. And
another good name.
But like Jaden, towards the end of the season, his inability to create separation, the number of shots he got contested. Now, open court, terrific passer, which is obviously, a huge advantage. But he's a guy that I worry. The guy that I think has the most interesting upside, to me, and I'll leave you with this one. I think Keegan Murray's Mikal Bridges waiting to happen.
Wow, that's a big upside right there.
Tremendous defender, very good catch and shoot, standstill shooter. Can put it on the floor a little bit better than you think. A little bit like Mikal. Could rebound his position. Keegan Murray is. He's really good. And you go back and watch that Michigan State game. I remember talking to Tom right after that game, and he said there haven't been a lot of guys in this league that can do the things he can do. But he can really defend. He can rebound his position. Even games he didn't shoot it well, he found a way to impact. Like, I forgot what game it was, a close game, and it was at home, and he struggled. They ran a second defender at him. They had like 6 and 8 eyes on him every time he caught the ball. So he went offensive rebounded. He found a way to impact winning.
That's
big.
That
game. It was actually after they played Michigan State. I walked away from that game going, Izzo's right. Even if you game plan for him, the thing you can't game plan for is when the ball goes up on the glass. And I walked away from that going, yeah, this kid's got it. And he's got legitimate size. And he reminds me, my daughter played volleyball at Villanova, so I got a chance to see Mikal all the time and Josh and all those guys. And he has a little bit of that in him.
That's awesome. All right. Well, with that, Coach, thank you so much for your time, obviously, but also for your insight into your history and kind of going back and taking us back to where it all started for you and how, you got involved in some of the things that you went through as a coach to get where you are today. Get
lost in it. I tell people all the time, if you love it, get lost in it. And if you get lost in it, you'll find a path.
Absolutely. Well, Seth Greenberg, Coach, thank you so much. We really appreciate your time as always. And it was great insight, and really, really thank you very much for being here.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.